Who are the clowns that wrote this story? Look, but that's a DJI FPV drone. What unreputable news sources put this online?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Who'd imagine doing that? Well, we can keep going back with your good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be, dear viewer. I understand that I put this up as being like 5 hours ago. So here we are from the past. Sorry about that. That was a complete mistake.
So viewers, if you can name this drone, write your answer on the back of a US $10 note and mail it to Gary, and he'll draw a winner.
Oh, yeah, I got a story about that. But anyway.
Now, is this really a news story, though? Because nothing has changed here at all.
What it is it's the DoD reiterating that no, we didn't say that we're going to approve lots of DJI drones, i.e. the two
Gov editions. Is that the
Gov editions? The people that bought the Gov editions were people using them for the counter UAS studies, and that's the only ones they let them have. But my hat, this has caused some backwards and forwards in the socials of various, and one's got to wonder what, and this one as well. Look, I've not subscribed to get Pentagon Financial Times. Pentagon drones 8 to 14 times costlier than banned Chinese craft. Wonder which particular company made sure that hit the site, the headlines just ahead of that being released again. I mean, it all smells.
But does price really come into it when dealing with government? You're normally talking toilet seats that cost $30,000.
Taxpayers' money.
Yeah,
there's plenty more where that came from.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, yeah,
I'm not sure. Exactly. Basing purchasing on cost for gov. Okay, small department, yes. Local fire, those guys are massively cost restrictive. But when you're talking, DoD contracts, it's how many suitcases full of cash would you like, sir?
A story about that as well. But I walked away from a job once in Thailand because the bloke wanted to pay me in an attaché case of jewels. Exactly what is the exchange rate for an attaché case of jewels, I wonder. But anyway,
I do think it is interesting. I do think DJI are over from a governmental US point of view. It's done. That door's closed. They've made some mistakes. They could have avoided this very simply if they'd have set up US manufacturing 2 or 3 years ago. I think they could have smoothed the waters. I don't buy the spying thing. I never have. I've always defended them in the sense of I have the opinion everyone is spying on me. Let's not pretend we didn't write the rule book on this as the British, as the US. There's no good or bad spying. There's just spying. Let's remember the company.
Hang on. I've got Mad Comics from the 1970s have black spy, white spy. There's good spies and bad spies. There are.
There's let's look at the social media companies, the Oxford company. We wrote the rule book on this stuff. So let's not sit here and pretend we're all innocent on the we don't spy on you thing. So I have zero concerns if Chinese versus US versus British. But I do think they've burnt the bridge. I think the US thing is done. I think that door's closed. I think they will still have, public can buy them, businesses can buy them, but from a governmental point of view, there are alternative products now that you can spend $30,000 on. So yeah, go for it.
Well, I notice Autel being touted as an American company again this week by some folks, which I find quite extraordinary. People do believe it's an American company, as they did DJI back in the day.
As American as sauerkraut and wontons.
Quite so. But how do these companies manage to shape their marketing to such extent that people did believe DJI was an American company when old Numpty Nuts was running the show and doing the marketing? How do they get away with it? It's flipping clever.
Yeah, they can start by not answering emails when you try to know more things about their SDK, so they don't write in Chinglish. So
True.
it's easy.
Autel have to be careful. they will fall down the same trap. They have a lot of DJI people now, and they have some fantastic people working for them. They really do. One or two of them I know as friends.
Oh,
Their
God.
problem is they have to
Don't,
not
yeah.
follow what DJI did, because at the end of the day, they're still Chinese.
Hey,
And what they have to
yeah,
do is not
yeah,
let that go.
you really have to tell them to start answering emails to guys that want to know more things about their SDK. Just little things.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
The big cultural change for all of these companies is releasing control from China, where the development is, and listening to the market they're trying to sell to. Now, one of the biggest mistakes DJI have made is DJI, regardless of the US element, China was at the steering wheel. Whatever happens, it was them. Whereas Autel now need to be careful not to make the same mistakes. They bluntly copy them in most ways. Let's not hide the fact it's a Mavic clone. The Mavic, it's a bigger version slightly, but it is a clone of the Mavic. DJI did that first. If you look at all of Autel's products, they are basically clones of what DJI have done. I'm not saying they're not good, but that's what they are. You know, the only real two companies that are doing their own development, Parrot, you know, we all slated that design, but let's be realistic. At least they're doing something different. You know, I sat here 3 weeks ago and said, why did you do it? But it is innovative. It is unlike anyone else. And Skydio. So Autel, they have an opportunity, but it's final assembly in the US. Is the US government really going to fall for that?
No. Well, we know that. We know that after the release from whichever agency it was.
FTC, wasn't
it? FTC, yeah. They're not going to fall for it. So it can only be a good thing for American manufacturer or Western manufacturer, because it didn't say only made in America. It said anywhere but China, basically.
This racism has to stop.
Oh, God.
You know,
we have woke Bruce is getting woke. Sorry.
You know, the realistic is 3 companies are innovating in the drone industry. Parrot are innovating. There's no question about that. Skydio have massively innovated, and DJI innovate. It's hard to say Autel innovate. You know, everything is very much what's been done before. The smart controller, it's nothing new.
Oh, come on.
You know,
and, copying is the most flattering form of innovation.
Well, yes, it is.
Oh.
But when will, you know, the problem is they've got to be able to stand up on their own, and that's where the problems arise.
Come on, Ian. Imagine you're a caveman and you see one guy making a wheel. Are you going to do a square, or you're just going to make a wheel? Come on, if it works,
I'm going to make a picture on a cave painting, a rendering of my proposed wheel, and then I'm going to go out looking for some venture capital money for it. That's what I'm going to do.
The skies will be filled with wheels. It's fantastic.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
Come on. I think Autel. Well, they have. End of the day, most of the manufacturers are using lots of made in the eastern side of the planet components. So that depends a little on the amount of integration they can produce. We in the EU, we had that thing before those crazy Brits got away. They were expelled from EU. Now we are more integrated than ever. But there was a percentage of what was considered as a local product to be called made in EU. And I don't know what are the percentages these days, if they still are percentages. And I really don't know in US. So perhaps the assembly might be enough. I don't know. I really don't know. But we cannot run away from parts made in China. Well,
no.
If we have parts made in China available. By the way, Ian, do you already got your 3080?
I have. I got a proper one as well.
You're not watching his videos, are you, Louis? That's terrible.
No, Louis,
that's terrible.
No, we wouldn't do that. Yeah, it's just there's a. Oh, there we go. You can send it over here. I keep wanting to do things with
I would like to show you my alternative to the 3080, but I can't because Oh, I can.
NDA.
He's going to break
NDA.
something. You're going to see this end now, aren't you? This stream. Oh, it's Mac Mini.
Yeah.
This is alternative to a 3080. Costs about the same.
All the GPU power of a pocket
come on,
calculator.
it's the cheaper one.
Yeah, to be fair, it's Autel. You know, it's interesting times. It is interesting times. I think, as you say, this does seem to be. You know, everyone was talking when Biden came in, would the US thing relax? That's clearly not going to happen, is it? You know, if that was going to happen, that would have happened by now. There's nothing going easy on them there at all.
No, it's not going to happen. We'll see what he did now with the borders. He's restating the borders, the expels, and all that. Now, the thing is, and I'm complaining about Autel on a very specific reason, because I want to know what it is possible to do with their SDK. I sent countless emails to those guys, and they are going out of my list to do a proper comparison. I'm not even asking for a free drone, a trial drone, or whatever. I have the budget to buy the stupid drone, but I really want to know what is possible to do with the drone. I just don't want to fly sticks with the stupid drone. And they're not replying to emails, so they have a problem there. And if they don't look, let's look at a comparison between DJI, Parrot, Skydio, and Autel. Okay. Look at the amount of information that DJI gives you if you sign in for their SDK. Parrot gives you a wonderful SDK and very detailed information. Skydio, kind of. And Autel, silence. So if you want to do serious work with one of these, you really have to look at the first two, because otherwise, you just are a sticky flyer, and that's good for guys that like Bruce that like to play around the cards. Or Mark, okay, come on, you're a sticky flyer too, Mark.
I see a badge come. I'm a sticky flyer. I can see the badge.
Why does it always boil down to my OnlyFans channel?
Yeah, exactly.
I have to say, what I've been doing this week, I wouldn't trust to an automated system.
Perfect. But the thing is, if you want to do a fair analysis of platforms, you have to consider several aspects of the platform. It's not only if it flies for 20 minutes or 90 minutes, or it can do this or that. You must know what are the gotchas that are hidden in the platform, and if you can work around those gotchas on the platform. And if you don't have that inside information, what they made available on their SDK, it's a problem. It's a real problem. This kind of information and then openness.
So which
come on,
are they not releasing that?
DJI. They only opened up their SDK after they tried to enter the industrial market, right? Because when they were doing toy drones, toy drones, they wouldn't open up anything. And even today, it's not fully open because there are several workarounds for that. But all manufacturers have their gotchas. Parrot clearly has a problem on commercial network and support. DJI, they're restructuring their distribution channel, which makes everyone confused. And Autel is silent. Perhaps they're understaffed or something, but at least get a robot. I can give them a JavaScript file that can answer emails automated, but everyone can do something, and there are plus and minus on everyone. So the solution is go Ardu pilot.
well, you gotta wonder what quite what Autel are hiding, or is it just that it's only using PX4 and there's nothing really that special under the hood? Something like that.
It might be, but they might also they advertise that they do things that are not available. They're not available on PX4, so they must have. Remember 3DR Solo with their locked code that they had? They were running Arduino pilots, but they still have a core of functions that were locked to being used. So it might be something like that.
Yeah. Well, the fact that they're not answering doesn't help, does it? I mean, it doesn't fill you with confidence. Even if they just told you to bog off, it would be better than not answering at all.
Yeah.
Maybe it's really made by Cadex, and they're trying to get the answer out of Cadex.
Yeah, that's it. I understand that actually Cadex are one of the most communicative. They're just once you email them, they don't stop.
Industry. It's Fat Shark don't answer emails. To be fair, DiviMath did come back to it ended up in a junk. I put a video out talking about how Fat Shark and DiviMath were ignoring me, and then DiviMath did email me and said they found the email in the junk, which was nice of them. But yeah, there does seem to be this thing in the drone industry that if they don't want to talk to you, they just don't reply. Rather than tell you to actually go away, they just go nothing.
See that he gets 20,000 subscribers, thinks he's God.
I don't mind companies telling me to go away, but I at least expect the company to reply. It's rude.
In what manner shall you go away, sir? Yes.
Yeah. You don't mind companies saying sorry, and most of the time I'm asking questions.
That didn't work, Bruce. We didn't tease it out of him. We tried. The two of you tried to tease out why he's going to annoy more people now, but he's plainly keeping why he's going to annoy more people under his hat.
No. We've got a new update for the DJI units today, which is, in my opinion, and it is only opinion, is the beginning of screwing users over with the encrypted cameras. And where the frustration is, and I'm going to put this out in under an hour, is that when it comes to fixing the bugs and adding new features, it's almost non-existent. Yet when a third party makes a camera that works, they're able to spin out new hardware and new firmware in short order. And it stinks, frankly, for users of the system and the longevity, because we've got DJI who, for the most part, appear to have abandoned the FPV system. Yes, I've been involved in getting 2 bugs out, but we had to really put it out there to get that fixed. Yet Sharkbite today and yesterday have released more updates. I'm not saying the system's perfect, but they've released an update which has all community requested features. And when the system doesn't have to be the best, but when their company is listening to users, you're going to win a lot of people over. And don't get me wrong, Fat Shark are far from the best company to deal with. I think everyone's had ups and downs with Fat Shark over the years, but DiviMath are making an effort, and it just stinks that there seems to be new hardware coming that's going to stop you using this because they haven't paid a license fee, yet we're sitting here with bugs such as the rebinding issue and no canvas mode support. And canvas mode's really annoying, isn't it, Bruce? Because canvas mode is just software. They could add that in a heartbeat. They really could.
Yeah, but I think, speaking of Fat Shark, if putting my entrepreneurial hat on, I know how they could make huge inroads into this whole market and really give DJI quite a bit of a competition. Fat Shark should do what all the other Chinese radio control manufacturers worked out a long time ago, is make the hardware and throw the firmware out to the community and say, make an open source Sharkbite software. And the community would run with it. You'd have lots of people working tirelessly night and day to make it better and better. And it's a cost that's removed from Fat Shark. So their profit margins can actually go up because they can be selling the hardware. The firmware will only run on that hardware. DiviMath have got the chips. You can't go and buy them anywhere else. It sustains the business model, and it turns it into something that's owned by the community, and therefore the community will embrace it and say, we're going to support this because we've got ownership. It's worked for everything else. Look at OpenTX. Look what that's done to the proliferation of cheap radios on the market, and all the manufacturers seem to be making money. So why don't they unburden themselves instead of... What? Yeah, they are. Yeah. Oh, have you not got your affiliate commissions?
I think some of the guys wouldn't mind having their software open sourced, but you know that some of those chip manufacturers, especially on the image capturing side of the chips, they have very tight NDAs, and when you use one of those chips in your product, you're obliged to implement ways in code that you cannot circumvent certain restrictions that the hardware provides. So
I do know DiviMath make the chipset.
Yeah, but there's a mixture, because I believe, if I recall this right, DiviMath make the chipset in partnership with Analog Devices. So you're going to have AD involved as well, and that's
but AD provide data sheets on all their chips. It's not like that's withheld. It's not like the Chinese manufacturers with their DVR chips where you've got to sign your life away to get access to how to program it. Analog Devices are pretty damn good with providing data sheets and full operating information for their chipsets, because they want lots of people to use them. There's no value to them in withholding that information.
Some of those chips are do really have some very stringent NDAs in place, and they make you do very effective ways of not working around and accessing their hardware directly. It's not a
I've done a whiteboard video on the Fat Shark system, how it works and so forth. The only chipset that I had trouble getting data for was the DiviMath chipset. The Analog Devices, no problems. The RF side of things, no problems. All that data is freely available. Just go online, there are the data sheets. It's only the DiviMath chipset that has the secret sauce. And since DiviMath are the only manufacturers of that chipset, there is no point in them withholding that information, because it's not like someone's going to go out and buy that chip from a competing manufacturer, because DiviMath are the only people that make them. So why not open source this thing, throw the doors open, and then people will rush to it, and they'll make a better product. You have some of the best brains in the world working on that stuff for free. It's going to make your product so much better. And that's where it comes along, and people will say, oh yeah, okay, I'll go with this. And also it provides that ongoing guaranteed continuity of support. There'll always be some support. If DJI decided tomorrow, we've had enough of this, we're not going to support it anymore, Cadex, I'm sorry, we're not going to make them for you, and there was a problem or something, that product is dead in the water. It's not going to advance, not going to go forward. But the SharkBite system, if they open source it, there'll always be someone improving it. Look at flight controllers. We started with base flight, and then we had all those forks, and now we've got basically the same things, but every man and his dog is creating better firmware for those flight controllers, and we got fantastic results.
I don't think it is.
There was no special code on any of those chips, Bruce. That's the point. You don't have code running on the image processor. Oh, come on. The image processor, the chip that captures there is no image
processor. That's in the DiviMath chip. The DiviMath chip does the image processing, and they won't even tell you what they do in the image processing. Why? Because there is no image processing, really. It is a very simple digital system. It basically takes the data, packets it up, and squirts it out. And that's all it does. That's why you have a much lower sensitivity, because you're using more bandwidth for a given amount of data. It's not like DJI, which has adaptive bit rate and adaptive compression, all those things that DJI does. The Fat Shark system doesn't do. So it's like, but why DiviMath withholding the information? There's no commercial value to keeping that information in-house.
I suppose the commercial value is... Sorry,
go on after you.
I was just going to say the commercial value is if others could then base their product off their work, and that's where the problem is. At the moment, I'm not concerned with it being open source, because they're making development. The biggest issue here is the amount of adoption. They have an agreement with Fat Shark, which is bumbling along. It's getting there. It's moving along. There's some proper HD goggles coming. DiviMath really just needs more people on board. SkyZone is a classic example. SkyZone could really put an upset here and say, yeah, we're going to support it day one and put it in a set of goggles. I do wonder what that commercial agreement is, though, between Fat Shark and HC0, because the problem is you're not going to get adoption if you've signed exclusivity, and that's then the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, but that does leave the door open, because someone else will come out with a better system, and then I think anyone that wants to, talking about Orca doing a digital FPV system, the people that do it, the people who will succeed will do it with open source software. They'll focus on making hardware, and they'll do it with open source software. And then DJI and Fat Shark will be left in the dust, just like no one buys Futaba transmitters because they've got Futaba software anymore. Everyone buys an OpenTX because you can change brands, you can change models without having to learn anything new. It has made that a very attractive component. So anyone making a transmitter these days, if they've got their head screwed on, they will make it OpenTX compatible because it means that people will buy it without having to relearn everything. How many people, when was the last time someone bought a Futaba transmitter? Mark accepted, of course.
Hey, Bruce,
Mark's
not
gone, yeah,
even,
Mark's
not
gone.
even OpenTX. Not even OpenTX. Remember the kerfuffle that there was a few years ago when some guys used OpenTX without permission of the project, and there was some, even using OpenTX, there are some conditions. And I clearly remember the problem there was, who was it that started doing a radio and using a variant of OpenTX without acknowledging OpenTX? There was a problem.
FreeSky tried to sort of take over OpenTX at one stage with their own variant, but apart from that, it's still an open source thing. Anyone can go and download it and start their own fork.
But at the end of the day,
if you want it supported by the official OpenTX main code, you really have to get in touch with the OpenTX people and get it there. So you have to provide support. You have to provide a few things. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's not just fork it and use it. No, it's not.
The interesting thing, Bruce, you said just now is if DJI, again, we should all be clear, DJI will abandon this system because they have in the past. It's inevitable that, you've only got to look at history repeating itself. They abandoned the first FPV system. Try buying an air unit for the first one. We've said very much, we all know that they have a 5 to 7, 8 year lifespan. Now, who is going to come in and create? Are we ever going to see a digital system that's going to have a 10-year, 12-year, 14-year lifespan? Because the reality is, the IP, the improvements, the changes, there's always something next wanting to happen. And this is where Bruce's favorite analog lives on, because everything was able to develop around analog. We got smart audio. We got all of this other stuff, which brought that additional features that people wanted, like the two-way telemetry and stuff like that.
402 line, black and white all the way. But at the end of the day, all this fuss is for a market in the size of tens of ones. It's a tiny market. Who's going to really fool around? I think, can we agree that DJI FPV was just a vanity project?
I think it was a development project for this. It was a development project for this. It made them some money and it got them to the. That's what it did. And this is what you said earlier. This is what bugs me is it appears that they're willing to spin new hardware and new firmware to block out something, which is how many of these are they going to sell, Bruce? Is Runcam really
just
going
hold a box up? Just hold a box up, Louis. That's it.
Louis wins. Yeah. Louis wins.
Yeah. All they have to do is make their own cameras available, not worry about Runcam. Now, the only problem is that's one, and I suppose the argument is, well, what happens when Runcam release 10? And that's, I suppose, where the argument kicks in. But still,
My words to Cadex would be, we'll make a camera that works better than Runcams, and people will buy it.
And make it available.
Make a better product at a reasonable price, and people will buy it. Yeah.
I do think it was Jura. Make it so it's official and it works, and I can actually buy it. That's it. 3 things.
This is just like the FreeSky thing. FreeSky, instead of saying we'll make a better product at a good price, we will introduce a protocol which locks everyone else out of our market. That's the way we'll do business. And that's when I said, FreeSky, you can take a hike. I'm not going to buy any more of your products. If that's the way, if you want to spend more money on locking people out than improving your own product, then I'm not going to stay on that train. I'm going to get off that bandwagon, and I have.
And that means that you're not going to be buying the radio with the huge knobs that has buttons as well on the knobs. I can't even remember what that was, but my word, there's a radio out there from them with huge knobs. Goodness knows how you hold on to the thing. No pun intended.
Because remember, FreeSky allegedly are doing their own HD digital system FPV, so it's been rumored, but I can't see anyone buying into that either.
No, but they've lost the love of the market, haven't they? They were. Everyone adored them. Everyone fawned over them for many years, and now everyone's like, nah, I don't think so. They've really shot themselves in the foot.
Who's that? Walker.
FreeSky.
Free Sky. Yeah. I can't think of a good reason to buy one of their radios anymore.
Yeah.
And I love my Taranis. And don't get me wrong, okay. I have some concerns over the jumpers. The quality isn't there, right? The switches. I do have some longevity concerns over the quality of the radio. Don't get me wrong, my first Taranis wasn't great, but it has had a complete battering and it still works. But if you're then thinking, well, do I spend a bit more? Then do you go Spectrum? You know, I know people don't go that way much now, but Spectrum make a quality radio. Then you got Futaba. So the problem is at the bottom, the battle of the budgets.
JR.
No. Do you know,
Just throwing it out there.
There's no question the Futabas and the Spectrum. I loved my Spectrum. I had a Spectrum. I absolutely loved it. I had no problems at all with it.
The modern Spectrums, you've got Android, they take about 3 days to boot. I mean, but one of the thing you forget, though, is that when you buy a Futaba radio, it has to last years because it costs you 5 times as much as a Radio Master or something. You can update your radio every couple of years or every year, and you get a new radio every year, and you're still paying less than buying a brand name radio that after 2 years doesn't even do half the stuff you want to do.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that Flight Test really were very much into the promotion, and Bruce, it's Bruce's fault as well, of the Taranis. A few people like that back in the day. And now there'll be direct competitors in the
Taranis was
FPV
good.
space if it happens.
It still is a fantastic radio, isn't it, Bruce? You know, as a radio goes, it's brilliant.
I got one of the first Taranis radios in the world, and I'm still using it daily, and it still works. The sticks are getting a bit worn, the centering's not so good anymore, but it's still a fantastic radio, still worked great. And the reason I liked it was because it had the ergonomics of this, and I know Gary's got one too, the JR9 at 9X2 had the same ergonomics, looks like it. And so it was a really nice radio to use in your hand. And I still say it's one of the best radios on the market. And I've got 2, actually. I've still got one new in box, which I will use when my other one breaks down, because as a full-size radio, it's just a nice piece of kit.
Have you taken the battery out of that box, Bruce?
No, it's leaked out. It's come out by itself.
Yeah, just a root design. Some say it had the ergonomics of the H9X, and some say it was a complete copy. Well, you know, it really depends.
You have to do a video especially for Bruce, on how to upgrade your Taranis to a current version of OpenTX.
I've just put Edge TX on the T16S, and I like that. It's the touchscreen version of OpenTX. I quite like that. That's quite nice. Some nice little features. I know Bruce doesn't like color screens on them because
another guy that likes touch screens.
That is handy at times.
Touch screens are crap.
Come on, touch screens and capacitive buttons are the ban of industry. Come on. You get a new car and it has capacitive buttons on the steering wheel, and you're turning the steering wheel and you touch all the stupid buttons with your elbows and your arms. Come on.
How is that Lamborghini Huracan working out for you, Louis?
Oh, the Huracan. Let me look outside to see if it's still parked. Yep, it's still parked on the same side.
You're still keeping it up on the bricks?
Yeah.
Has to, since they stole the wheels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very hard to steal the rest of it. Yeah, it's not a huge market. The whole digital FPV, all of that, it's not a big thing. I wonder if DJI got sucked in by all the hype in the media that this FPV, especially racing, was going to be the big thing, and they thought, "Oh, we better get into this market," and so they bought this thing out, only to realize, "Oh my God, it's just a bunch of geeks in car parks with drones." Yeah. Just squishy. I also had the 9303. I was a JR man back in the day, but just because they were easier to get here in Africa, that was all.
The thing is, I don't know if you guys have seen that. The tendency these days is to go to those very large radios with a huge screen, and they don't run anything specific. Like, what's the name of that one from Philip Rouse that you have, Ian? It's the muted one. It's the
Hearlink,
muted one.
the muted radio.
Yeah, the Hearlink is actually next to me. I've been playing with the new alpha firmware today.
Those radios are all the rage these days, and you can get those crazy radios. 20 kilometers range, 50 kilometers range, and you look at that. How do they do it?
How did they?
There's also a lot
Nobody
of
would have thought
around the
Nobody
corner
would
as
believe.
well. That I do know. I was talking to someone, and the 5G revolution is potentially also going to drive FPV a little bit, because there's a lot of SoCs that are going to come pretty much ready to go, and with not a lot of work, they'll be able to do a better job than the 4G. The 4G's got quite high latency, so if you want to use one of the 4G chipsets, not very good, but the 5G has much improved, and it's going to mean maybe the likes of the DiviMath chipsets and stuff might come redundant, because there will be off-the-shelf SoC modems. They're all designed for phone use, but they'll be off the shelf, ready to go. And you're going
besides burning the 5G antennas in Wales, what else are you doing these days? Come on. Do you really think so that 5G might be a viable option for C2 links?
No, it's not the
Every other
frequency,
rendering
it's
says so.
the chipset. Remember, the chipset can be told. Most of these chipsets will go on whatever band you tell them to do. Because remember, 4G goes on 1800 megs. It's not far from 2.4. There's bands all over the place. They're all capable of multi-band output. It's still on the same frequency. It's just
the latency. Come on, the
latency.
latency.
They're saying 5G is dramatic.
Yeah, latency will still be high because they're all going high res now, which they want better resolution rather than low latency.
Remember, Hearlink is LTE. They're all based. All of these current ones are all based off LTE, and that's where the latency is a little bit higher, because it's better, higher than the DJI FPV system, for instance. But they're all based off mobile phone chipsets. The Hearlink, the SYK, the SIKI, there's a couple of them on the market. They're all the same. They're all based off this 4G design chipset overall.
Yeah, but mobile phones latency isn't a big factor. It's not a high factor. That's why you've got the high latency with the current 4G chipsets, because they focus on the consumer experience. They want a sharper picture, and they want So that's why I don't think we're going to see 5G. And besides, if you're going to go on 5G, will it really stretch to the bands we're legally able to use? Because no one wants to pay so much per gigabyte while you fly an FPV and find that your prepay account runs out and the screen goes black.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's the chipset is the key here. It's the SoC which is ready to go, because these chipsets are all in ones. There's the baseband modem. Everything is it's there ready to go. So from a development point of view, you're literally following the datasheet, Bruce, as you were saying earlier. So it'll take away that custom IC need. Do you know what I mean? It's whether they can get down to the FPV latency.
And will it be flexible enough to allow for the applications we want to apply it to? Things like OSDs and crap like that. How are you going to implement that when you've got an SoC and it's all locked inside, and you've got to sign your life away for an NDA to even know what it does, as was mentioned previously. And then you've got a very limited amount of customization because of the SoC nature of the chip, unless you want to buy gazillions of them in a batch with your particular firmware burnt into ROM.
I'm just trying to keep talking. I'm trying to get to the coverage for here, a coverage map to show you just how bad the coverage is here in South Africa. And
then you get some surprises, like I had 2 weeks ago when I came driving from Switzerland to Portugal, and I stopped by at Andorra, and suddenly your phone switches to roaming zone 2. And 30 seconds later, you're saying your phone bill comes up and it's 50 euros for 30 seconds of data roaming. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
good for the long-range flyers. Try not to cross borders.
And besides which, since when has BV loss been legal?
Yeah, exactly. Who needs it? Nobody needs it. Exactly right.
No.
And that's what I found with that Parrot drone. It's got the power and the strength of 5G. You'll be able to go for miles, as long as you want to break the rules.
Well, that'll change. That will change, and that is a way around it. But yeah,
you can get permission to do long range, but let's just say that the amount of paperwork that you'll have to file it weighs more than all the drones that you can think of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
It was fairly fair and reasonable based on the huge number of fatalities that have been associated with BVLOS recreational flying.
Let's just look at a country like South Africa and let's examine the 5G coverage currently available. Oh yeah, there's some there.
Oh,
And
that's a lot. You have lots more than this.
And there's some there. And there's some. Is there any down here? There must be. There's some there. There must be some in Cape Town. Look, there's a little bit there. We can fly in Newton Park and Rebecca. Yeah, it's. Oh yeah, look, Cape Town. It's completely covered. It's utterly covered. So we are.
Vineyards. You must have 5G on the vineyards because otherwise they won't grow.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, there you are. There's your bit of Stellenbosch.
Is it just a coincidence that those red dots coincide perfectly with COVID outbreaks?
Oh my God!
They do look like the COVID thing, don't they? You're so right. Yeah, I mean, well, let's just put it onto not just LTE as well. LTE, that'll be a bit more like it. So look, even LTE here is not. It's not fabulous. So it's not coming. It's not coming as a method of controlling your RPAS anytime soon here. Or do
you welcome our overlord? Oh God, Elon Musk with his Sky whatever. Starlink.
It's time to go back to wired communications and control line.
Control line for the win. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what these people are smoking when they say that 5G is going to be the way forward and run everything.
Oh, speaking of people smoking, did you see that video? Australia is charging $40 per drone annually for registration if you're going to use it for commercial purposes. Did you know, I just changed to another screen here, that their registration levies are done on a cost recovery basis, and they are claiming that in the year 2022-2023, they're going to get $26 million in drone registration levies, Keza, at $40 a drone.
Hell's teeth. What do they get now from the manned aviation community?
I don't know, but at $40 a drone, $26 million, the skies will have to be blackened with commercial drones to get that. I mean, these people are so out of touch with reality.
And you know what will happen? They will say if they don't make that money, they will say that people are just plain criminals that don't pay to register their drones.
Well, they would just say all drones must be registered, recreational or commercial, regardless of weight and size, and then we'll apportion this expense, because this is the cost of running the whole system. We'll apportion it across all the users. I feel sorry for Australians. They're going to be hit with such huge registration bills. It's going to be crazy. And of course, it'll kill the hobby. Everything's moving towards getting the hobby out of the public view, hiding it away, and letting it die naturally through attrition.
Oh, come on. You should not be that gloomy.
Yes.
Yeah, he's always so miserable, isn't he, about regulation? He's always so down on governments trying to do that.
I haven't even started yet. I'm slowly ramping up. These people don't know what's going to hit them. They have no idea what's coming.
Wolf saying an interesting thing that Starlink saved lives, or certainly made life better for people in these current floods. And that's got to be a great reason for having it. But I see the UK is proposing changing its spectrum allocation to sort of kick. What's the other one? One. There's another satellite thing going up at the minute, isn't there?
Yeah, I know the one you mean. The one they bought, the government bought.
Yeah, but it looks like the UK is preparing to kick them in the nadgers and not let them use the spectrum as they fly overhead. OneWeb, isn't it? I think something like that.
Yeah, but the UK government bought into that. Why are they going to kick themselves in the ankle?
Because obviously somebody's very much got onto them from the telcos and the fixed line stuff and said, hang on a minute, we can't have that. So they're throwing curveballs, because it's interesting, isn't it, how that Starlink and all these, every man and his dog wants a satellite-based service like that. There cannot be enough room up there for the number of satellites they'll all need.
Also, the economics don't add up. If you saw Thunderfoot's video, he did all the sums, and basically, even if they have full network capacity, I don't think that the revenues at the current rate will cover the costs of operating the system. And remembering they've got to keep throwing satellites up because they're always falling down. They only have a limited shelf life once they're up in orbit.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
what's going to happen is you are not going to get anywhere near the advertised bandwidth because they'll have to oversubscribe the service, or they'll have to put the prices up through the roof. And this is the golden age now. You get wonderful value in service, but if it reaches economic viability, you're going to get really poor bandwidth, or you're going to have to pay a fortune.
Come on, Bruce. Everything is going the direction of full government control. Just pasted here a link of one of the fine EU regulations that is about to go live very soon.
Yes.
And if you complain about drones, oh God, this is so pitiful compared with what our dear regulators in Brussels are doing. Come on, 40 bucks.
That's intelligent speed assistance, and that's all
Yes.
but that's all part of the dream, isn't it? That's part of the dream
No.
of vehicle to vehicle, and every lamppost having a means talking to the cars, etc., etc., etc. And this is another
from
thing.
2022.
Yeah. But it's another thing that's been really pushed by by people that want to sell the bits and pieces, and yeah, it has lots of twists and turns in it, and that's why Richard always goes on about not unmanned traffic or unpersoned, as it would be now, whatever it is they want to call it, to traffic management systems. But he talks about unified traffic management systems, because that sort of thing, the drone, the car, the whatever, it'll all need managing. So, yeah, it's just vendors.
It's starting to make the man with the red flag look quite attractive now, isn't it? Walking in front of your vehicle.
When I was reading this, do you know the what came to my mind? Do you guys remember that crazy movie called Airplane, when he engages the autopilot? I really had, it was my idea. Come on, we need that autopilot for a car.
The Teslas have those, but they don't blow up.
No.
Yeah, but these drone regulations, come on, are just a drop in what the people are preparing. Come on. We've seen these last 2 years. Come on, millions of people locked at home. Come on, we are being taken by, I don't know, really don't know. So all these conversations we have, oh, drones this, drones that, oh, 40 bucks here, 40 bucks there. Come on, it's so little. Bruce, you better start practicing on your flight simulator on your computer. You have a good enough computer to play flight simulator. Just have fun with it, or get real flight and have fun with it, because it's not going to be too late for us all to be online flying information using real flight.
No, Louis, rules are just advisories. When they get too bad, rules become advisories, and your eye should be on the goal of safety. If you can provide safety without rules, you've got it made. And that's what I've decided. The rules now are so absolutely ridiculous and out of phase with the risks associated with our operations that they become advisory. I will look at the rules, and if necessary, if the rule is good, I will apply it. If it's unnecessary, like the spotter rule, I will discount it, because I am the man with boots on the ground. I know what's safest. I've been doing this 60 years. I'm not a bureaucrat stuck behind a bench who's only ever read about it in books. I'm the guy who'll make the decisions, and I will wear the responsibility. If I get it wrong and something bad happens, then I will take full responsibility for that. But in the meantime, you can take your rules and you can do whatever you like with them, but I will simply be treating them as guidelines.
It's not so, because you might be the man in charge, but they work on the forecasting. What if you had a problem? So that's their ideas. It's not when you have a problem.
And what if there was no drone at Gatwick?
Yes, there was.
We need to ask the question right back at him. What if there was no drone?
that has been a narrative that has driven an awful lot of trouble around the world. In New Zealand, I know they use it as a narrative. There's people in England still using it. Cranfield use it as a narrative. I'm sure Australia does as well. They use it as the lever. I've seen South African ATNS people use it as a narrative. And more and more things are coming out about that.
And that's why it's imperative that we get the truth out there, because it's been used as the cornerstone of many, many regulations. And if we can say, well, that's not valid, therefore the regulations on which you have justified them through Gatwick need to be reviewed immediately, because they're obviously not fit for purpose, because the very rationale you've used for presenting them has been dismantled. And that's what we've got to do. This whole approach to getting rid of these ridiculous rules has to be done scientifically and methodically. And that's one of the pieces we have to bring out there. And I got some evidence from a trusted third party that there was another event at Gatwick the week before the drone incident, and that left the control tower without power for an extended period of time. And that means, well, again, we've been heard of this. Is it a cover-up? Is it a cover-up for something else that happened? Was it malware, whatever? Was it a major systems failure at Gatwick? And therefore, the best way to deal with it was to say, oh, there's a drone, and then we're buying ourselves time to get things sorted. It's starting to look a lot like that from so many different perspectives.
No, come on, Bruce. If you read that paper of the speed assistance, you can see that there's a chapter, a paragraph there that say, "Oh, users were delighted because they were with this system. They were prevented of getting speed tickets." Come on, those guys can get you whatever they want. We are just voices crying in the middle of the desert.
No, if we choose to be. Otherwise, we can stand up and say, hey, look, the governments work for us. We will make the demands. They must listen, or they're no longer in power. And people have just got so accepting of what happens to them. They've forgotten the fact that freedom and liberty is something that you have to protect, or you lose it. So you got to stand up and be counted.
Yeah, we certainly have to. I mean, if the evidence is there,
we are old enough to remember how things should be and how things were. The problem is come on, kids in the age of my son and daughter, 20s, they just consider this natural, and they're made to grow up with these stupid regulations. And
you're so right. You are so right. What's happened is the things that we have valued so much, our freedoms and our privacy and things, the modern generation, they accredit no value to that. It's not valuable. It's not important to them. They've had their life on Facebook and Twitter and things. Privacy is not a thing to them. It is a thing to us. And the thing that concerns me greatly is that we had a whole generation of people risked and sometimes gave their lives to protect the freedoms that we held valuable. And kids today are just saying, no, it's not important. So all those sacrifices were pretty much in vain. All the people that died in World War II to protect us, they just basically gave up their lives for no reason at all. And the interesting thing is with this whole woke thing, now the people who are engineering the changes we're seeing are trying to erase that history. Like it didn't happen, or we'll take these statues down and we'll rewrite the history book so this never happened, so that the young people today aren't even aware of what's happened in the past and the reasons why they should feel, in my opinion, ashamed for some of their attitudes and outlooks.
No, I think our society as we know it is going through a huge change, and these STEM practice and real life STEM that we so much love with this hobby of the RC flying or RC modeling is one of the first victims, because it makes you go outside. Basically, it makes you go outside and makes you how to handle a screwdriver and distinguish between Phillips and a regular screwdriver, Allen keys, all that stuff that you need to know. Getting the soldering iron on the right end of the soldering iron. So all those things that we are. Come on, most of us learned by experience and by watching others. They don't have that opportunity.
Governments are creating a culture of dependency. They want the people to be powerless to do things for themselves, be reliant on the state, and then they've got full control. They don't want people knowing how to fix stuff and how to go outside. Even this whole obesity epidemic. I watched a thing on YouTube last night about obesity. One of the reasons that we now have much higher levels of obesity than any time before is because instead of going outside and flying model aircraft and doing all sorts of things, kids are stuck in their mother's basement playing PlayStation. And even sports has become mainly a spectator event. People watch it on their televisions and think, "Whoa, I'm fit. I watched 3 hours of football this weekend," instead of getting out there and doing it themselves. It is a whole, I don't know whether it's intentional or whether it's just a byproduct of what we're doing, but I fear for future generations. They won't even be well enough to get outside, even if they wanted to.
No, I'm glad that I got my kids to get an outdoors activity like the Scouts. At least they know how to make themselves a fire in the middle of the wilderness and build a tent or whatever.
He knows how to do that with a lipo battery and a screwdriver. He's your man.
Yes. So blood expert on these matters. I think but don't completely despair. We certainly spend a lot of time making sure children around here that we teach can make a fire and do all those things and use a screwdriver and go outside and play sport. And because
but if you go outside with a screwdriver, you get arrested for possessing an offensive weapon.
Well, that's also true. But it's what are you lining them up for? What job are you lining them up for? Let's not just be negative. I think this whole, to a degree, this situation is going to force changes, and you're seeing really shoddy employers now showing their hands, demanding people to come into work when they've been able to do their work, and people are beginning to value their time with their family more. People are gardening a lot more. There's another outdoor thing that's not RC model flying, but realizing where food comes from, it's not just a supermarket, and perhaps they'll try their damnedest to make those changes not stick. But if a little bit of that sticks, we might see some more positive changes. I think it's don't be too down on the kids.
I'm not too down, but I see the future is in our hands. But I see far too many people sitting on their hands, not doing anything about shaping the future. People like the people who are in the hobby, they're all going, "Oh, this is terrible." Who's getting off their bums and doing something? I'm doing the best I can. I'm making more noise than anyone in the entire hobby to try and get some reform to regulations and to wake people up. Most people are just waiting for someone else to do the job, and I'm prepared to do it. But it's a very uphill battle, and I need to get people aware that you get the future you deserve, and you've got to earn the privileges and the freedoms that are currently being taken from you. You got to fight back.
No, that is true. But that, I think, that's all part of the civic responsibility and pride as well, isn't it? It's sort of you get the local government you deserve, and you deserve an awful local government.
We are poking a bee's nest with that, but it's not that easy. It's a lot of things. Come on.
We've definitely departed off topic here.
No. It's all to do. Come on. It's all to do with DJization of the hobby. We are. Come on. What we used to do, grabbing some motors, looking at specs of motors and all that. Now, come on, you just go to the shelf of the nearest supermarket and get a ready-to-fly drone. Come on, the most you have to do on the DJI Mini 2 is to screw up the sticks.
Yes, the shrink wrap generation. Yeah. We've just turnkey. Everything's turnkey. We need to change it. It's with kids today don't seem to have quite the passion for pulling stuff apart and finding out how it works as we did when we were young. And I think because they can just go something Bruce, great, they can buy a new one.
Have you taken apart some of the recent electronics? Come on, you just see black,
I have, with great speed and gusto.
Yeah, but
by hitting things.
You just see black, you look at it and you see, black this, black square 1, black square 2, black square 4. Okay.
That's an incremental thing, because when I was young, we had valves. I didn't try and make my own valves. I just said, what's a valve? And that's a part of this thing. And when we had transistors, I'm not going to make my own transistor. And these days, you've got systems on chip. I'm going to make my own system on chip, but I know what it does, and it's a part of the thing. So I will build modular stuff. I build an ADSB alarm. I didn't do an entire circuit board and an entire software-defined radio. I got the individual building blocks and put them together and melded them together with firmware as the glue. That's what you do. You just abstract the process a little more. That's a natural way to deal with technology. No one can go out there and build their own large-scale integrated circuits these days, whereas we might have wired up an old radio chassis from scratch back in the 50s.
And 70s. Yeah, that's it. So then what are you setting up youngsters for now? Are you setting them up for the 9 to 5 that we all grew into? Are you setting them up to be inquiring minds that will think, oh yeah, no, I could grab one of those and set fire to something, living the Ian dream. And that's I think what we've got to do. We've got to show them that the opportunities are huge compared to, the keepers of knowledge back in the day were librarians, and you had to talk to them nicely to get the book you needed that was whatever it was. They can see it now.
I think the problem is, as Louis alluded to, you can buy what you need. You don't have to build it. You can buy it. I mean, we couldn't buy. No one bought ready-built model aircraft when we were kids. You had to build them from sticks of balsa wood and tissue. So there was a price you paid for the results at the end. These days, the price you pay is grabbing your credit card and buying a foamy from Banggood. There's not that same connection between the investment of time and energy and learning and the reward that comes from having a model you can fly. I think that's something that's been removed, and that's unfortunate. But FPV brought that back, because if you want to build a freestyle quad, you can buy them, but most people build them. Get the motors and the SCs, you learn how to solder, and what does what. That is where I was really pleased to see that happening with the hobby. It was a re-energizing the hobby, because people had to actually do something more than just buy and fly. They had to actually build something, and we need to promote that.
Most of the guys I've seen, there were a handful that would build from a component, but most of them would go to the AliExpress Banggoods of the life and just buy whatever Chinese was on sale on that week. And preferably with some highest quality FPV glasses, and that's it. And they were FPV pilots.
Well, people start like that, but once you've got into it, you realize that's a false economy, because the ready-built stuff is crap. And if you want something that's going to fly nicely, you build it yourself, and it's not a big investment in time. It doesn't require much learning, really. And I think, look at Ian, he can do it.
You can burn any drone racer made a really good point there about no user serviceable parts inside.
That's why Ian got himself a DJI FPV, because he wants to tinker about with the insides and changing motors, changing propellers to get the most of bang for the buck. But
he's selling that drone probably, and he's just building another one, because that's how it works.
And getting capacitors on the motor lines
3 times in the last week, and destroyed a lipo as well at the same time. I'm genuinely thinking of selling the DJI FPV drone. It holds no value for me.
The two of you, you still both got them? They're still both there?
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, still not crashing them. That's because you're not flying them.
Because I'm not flying them.
Yeah, but I fly this all the time. This is a home built. I fly this all the time, and it just, in every way that's important to me, it radically outperforms the DJI drone. So this sits on the shelf and gathers dust. This gets out there and does a lot of flying, creates a lot of video, gives me a lot of fun. And partly because it's just nicer to fly something that you've actually put together with your own hands, and you know how it works. And if it breaks, it's going to cost you a few bucks for a new motor or ESC or whatever. If this breaks, it's a few $100 to go to pay to DJI to have some little nerdy kid do it behind your back. It's not the same thing.
And I think DJI was very smart with the launch of the DJI FPV drone, because they launched the drone when everybody was at home, so they didn't have to do many replacement of drones. So it's kind of funny with the timing they had the drone up. But yeah, we are not the target demographic for that DJI FPV. It's a nice. It's the same as a DJI Mini 2 that just flies faster. We are not the target demographic. We still love the smell of the burning motors or the burning ESCs, that special smell that they put in the factory that gets released, and we always try to get it released in a proper way.
Yeah, but Ian's so used to that now, it holds no novelty for him.
You can't detect it, you can't smell it anymore. Can't smell it.
No, he's always
Too
trying
much
to
of it.
get the
Burn
newest
out his
color of
nostrils.
the magic smoke. He's trying to find the unicorn color of the magic smoke that's inside the ESCs.
Always magic smoke in my world.
Somebody mentioned that there's someone knocking on my door. It's flipping porcupines. Terrors. I don't know what particular. I can't remember which plant it is, but there's a
The
porcupine
pricks.
that is eradicating. There's one of the flowers from the garden at the moment, and the dogs go nuts. So they're just chasing the bloody porcupine out there. So that's what that is. Sorry.
Yeah, I think one's just knocked on Ian's door too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
porcupines in Wales everywhere. Absolutely.
Gratuitous cheer shot. He never misses. Never misses.
I think it was because of the 5G.
I've had to turn the fan on in here. It's got so hot. It's killing me. So I had to run over and turn the fan on. Has nothing to do
Not
with
only
the shade.
20,000 subscribers, but he's got fans as well.
Yeah, and he turns them on. It's amazing. Yeah, it's quite amazing.
we
Oh
on
no,
the
that's the
wrong
other channel. Yes, the other channel, isn't it? Yeah. DJI FPV is for aerial photography folks that want to learn how to fly
It's
without
not,
actually taking
Because
a
it's
training
shite
course.
at aerial photography as well. That's the problem. It's not even good at that.
Just-
That's my
just
gripe with it. It's marketed that way, but it doesn't fulfill. It is night and day, the GoPro versus the DJI. It is night and day.
And that's why so many people are throwing GoPros on their DJI
Yeah.
FPV drone.
Yeah, that must make it bloody heavy. That must be
No,
really.
no.
You only have to do
you
one
strip
thing
it.
well. It
It's
doesn't
so-
fly, and it doesn't fly well. It doesn't capture video well. It doesn't last any longer.
That's-
What does it do well?
It's a compelling review. It's a compelling review. Check for lipophyria, and that might be the cause
Yes,
of the heat.
no, it's all
Yes,
safe.
that's it. Yeah, that's it. Good,
Yeah, it is
could very well be, couldn't it? Yeah,
I am
could be a
still
fire happening
extremely
anywhere in that
critical
shed.
I'm extremely critical of that
Oh,
drone
Dan has it.
because for the first time, it felt a letdown. And it's the first DJI product that I spent money on where I thought, wow, okay, I don't get this one. I've upgraded the Mavics. I've had all of the Mavics. I had most of the Phantoms, and I've never felt when I upgraded, oh, that was a bit of a waste. I always felt I got something for my money. Do you know what I mean on that? I was never sitting there going, I shouldn't have bothered. But the FPV drone genuinely was just a bit crap.
Oh God, you are so gullible, Ian. You just have so much disposable income that you go and buy every stupid DJI drone. Come on, give me a break.
If you're making content, Louis, you have to be able to have the product to talk about. That's different. If you're going to talk about product, then you need to have it in hand. So for me, it was a different scenario. I was having the product to talk about.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. You and Bruce are the YouTubers of the panel. But come on, we've seen so many talking heads that just speak about whatever, even if they haven't seen it or used the product. Yeah, come on, you know that.
But I did over 20,000 posts on RC groups directly helping users before I was even really doing the YouTube thing. I've got something, I think it was like 25,000 posts on RC groups. That was from helping people. And if you're going to help people, you need the product to do that. Now, there are the people who, I talk about it. We all talk about Parrot. We all talk about the others, some of the stuff we've never flown. But really, if you want to put out content on a product, you've got to have it in hand. But it was genuinely the first time I went, wow, this just doesn't do nothing for me. It's okay. It's bloody quick. I'll say that. As a FPV drone, it's one of the fastest FPV craft, and that's just because you can bank the camera right up and move the camera back down again. It's a really good feature, and it's got some really good features, but the image quality is not good enough. It doesn't do what you need it to do. It doesn't do any of it well. That's the problem. And the batteries, they're silly money.
Come on. It's a middle of the road product. So would you want to be excellent in everything for $1,000? Come on.
I wanted one bit of it to do well.
I
No,
thought
you can't have everything. You just have
Yes, I
everything
can.
middle of the road.
Yes, I can. The $400 Mavic Mini 2 does a better job on image quality.
Well, that's another issue. That's
I
another
thought-
issue. Before we go, because we really have over-taught that FPV thing. I thought, when I read this, I thought I'd better put this up because what could possibly go wrong? I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. That sounds
Nothing.
perfect.
The computer
YouTube never had any
decided to
trouble with
solve
AI.
the problem of accidents. It was going to crash all of the planes into each other and then end it. Has anyone seen, which one is it? Iron Man 2? Where he
No.
created an AI to save humanity, and its logic to save humanity was killing them all. Because that was the simplest way to save them.
Was the computer from Arnold Schwarzenegger? The
Terminator.
how was
What
it?
about Hell? Hell back in the
Terminator,
day.
yeah.
Wow. Back in the day. So, isn't it interesting that the National Air Traffic Service is considering AI and machining it all up, and we'll be ready for that plug and play world? But I wonder if that's also another reason why they want to get a little bit more control on the system now as well. That won't work without remote ID and all the other stuff. Just saying. Hashtag. I'll be keeping an eye on that for the next 10 years. It'll be very
It's also worth
interesting.
noting that AI is a misnomer. It's actually machine learning. There's no
Machine
intelligence
learning.
involved. It's machine
What
learning. And
I was teaching, that's exactly what I was teaching him today. There's no, it's just a great big spreadsheet with loads of stuff on that can read quick, and machine learning. It's exactly what I was teaching them today. Exactly.
But it is an interesting concept, this, because as you said, in the Terminator just wanted to kill everyone. But the Iron Man concept was an interesting one, because the AI decided only the strong should survive because that's best for humanity.
We're all right then.
Therefore, we're going to wipe out everyone else and only the strong will survive. And how long before it says only stupid people fly on planes? Let's just crash them all into the ground. Do you know what I mean? It's not good, is it?
Well, I just compare it to the YouTube experience. Look how many times YouTube's AI has got things wrong. After countless iterations of learning and training, it still gets stuff wrong. It's fine if it's just someone gets their channel demonetized or gets something deleted, but not when human lives are at stake.
How many? 600,000 subs channel? We're not talking a small
come on,
channel
guys.
here.
Sorry.
And the AI just went, no, sorry, you're off.
No, come on, guys. For the amount of errors that properly trained AI system, and I believe that their AI system is always constantly being trained, versus a human,
just like YouTube's
errors. No, versus a human analyzing content, the percentage of errors from the AI system, it's much less than the human. The human, if the wife told him something nasty in the morning, will go and start deleting Bruce's content left and right.
But you humans have a much better chance of seeing they've made a mistake. AI cannot tell it's made a mistake because as far as it's concerned, it's done everything right.
Do you still believe that humans have a chance to see they made a mistake? They might see it, but they might not admit it. So,
yeah, I do remember.
Weren't there a couple of airliners just recently hit onto each other because of air traffic controller errors or something?
I used to work there. That should be enough. That should be enough of a worry for anyone. But the interesting thing is, aviation authorities have said, no way, not in your Nelly, are we ever going to allow AI into the aircraft itself and any part that we've got a hold of. But air traffic navigation services seem to be able to want it. And there is too much of a difference between air traffic navigation services and civil aviation regulators now. I worry that, it's ATNSs that want UTMs, they want this, they want that, they want the other, because they need the money. They need the cash.
Shouldn't we be proposing an AI system as a form of government? Perhaps they'll do less wrong options than some of the Bruce's friends.
Why have artificial insanity when we've got the real thing?
No, but at least they would be distributed equally. Come on, Bruce.
Just chat amongst yourself. I've got to sort the flipping dogs out. Need intelligent dogs.
Did you see that drone that fell from the sky onto that golf course in Maine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I had to laugh because someone put a comment. It wasn't an undercarriage leg or a wheel. It was a drone.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, you've won the internet today, mate. That's fantastic.
Because like, wasn't it last week there was an undercarriage fell or something that landed on someone's lawn? So something scarily, pulverizingly large.
There's always stuff falling off airplanes. It will, it's like, really, who maintains this stuff?
No, Bruce, the best thing that falls from the planes are those frozen blue balls. You know that.
No, they tell us it's impossible. It's a fully sealed system. There cannot be any effluent leaving the aircraft when it's in the air.
Yes, that's why they drop those frozen blue balls. Oh God!
It's cold here as well at the moment. Definitely frozen blue balls at the moment. Look, we've definitely talked around the houses. It is cold. It's very cold. It was -7.5 here yesterday, and the lake down the bottom froze. So it has been cold. We've talked around the houses. We've talked about things that have nothing to do with what we normally talk about. So I think we should probably draw a line on it, unless anyone else has seen anything else this week that caught. Oh, Louis, have you flown? Have you got your Parrot AI yet? Are you flying that yet? Because I see they are out in the wild. You've got 2 or 10. What was that? What does that mean?
It's that big.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't get put one in your hands. I know they're out there. I know they're getting about, but I'm still not seeing porcupines would want to get into warm houses. Bloody things, yeah. They really dig big holes.
Yes, but you can fly the new AI on the simulator right now.
Yes, that's true. I should have thought to do that. I must do that. You're very right. Have you flown that on the sim? Don't you need a controller?
You can also simulate that. So it's good for Ian to practice his FPV skill set.
And if he can get that thing to catch fire, then he really is an expert in his field.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, I've been playing around. I've been playing around with the SDK. It's quite comprehensive. So I just started just a little bit.
No, good. They really did well with all of that stuff, and the stuff they released. It was a breath of fresh air, all of that. So hopefully the others will follow suit. So on that, going once, going twice. Were there any other stories that we saw this week, gentlemen? Ian's got a new graphics card. That's about it. Okay, dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, thanks very much for spending time with us. Again, time that you're never going to get back. Look forward to seeing you again 2100 next week, and I'll try and get the time right on the timings. Oops. Look after yourselves. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Be safe out there. Take care for now. Thanks, chaps. Thank you very much. Cheers all. Bye bye.